All right, so I will call to order this meeting of the Greenfield Conservation Commission at 6:32 p.m. on April 23rd, 2024. As we can see on our screen, all commission members are currently present. As you just heard, this meeting is being recorded, and if anyone else is recording the meeting, you're required to let me know. And also, since this meeting is being held virtually, if any strange technical interruption occurs and the meeting just suddenly ends, we'll just automatically resume all items to the next scheduled meeting date. All right, so first on our agenda, we have approval of meeting minutes, April 9th, 2024.
I'll motion to approve the meeting minutes from the last meeting, which was April 9th, 2024.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to approve that was seconded. Any comments on those minutes?
I just went through like 5 minutes ago and made a couple comments for Mitch's consideration.
Okay. Yeah, let's just look at that real quick. Make sure I'm sharing the right screen here. All right, you guys seeing the minutes here? Oh, there it is. So yeah, this part was in the discussion with the mayor. Excavating is being done. Yeah, I do believe that is happening right now. I
Okay.
think that's what she was saying.
Okay.
Is
Is it past tense? It was considered priority, or is still considered priority?
I mean, I guess it was considered a high priority when the plan was developed, and since it's in our current plan, it also is considered a high priority. So I think it could be either way. I don't know. Does anyone have any
I
preferences
feel
on
like
that?
is gives it more weight.
Yeah, I think it is sounds good. Everybody okay with changing that to is?
Mhm.
All right. Oh, you really went in depth here.
This is, I'm sorry, this is a like very
That's okay.
special project for me. I can see it out my office window right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
It's,
Due to its location as the parcel is contiguous with existing protected open space. Trail system.
existing trail system. So there is, yeah, I know. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I just want to hammer it home. I just want it to be very
Yeah, yeah.
clear. This is very important to the city and the citizens of the city.
Mhm.
Just because this could be part of public record that could be pulled up later. I just want to make sure it's like really clear.
Yeah. So yeah, due to its location as the parcel is contiguous with existing city-owned protected open space, um, existing trail system, and rare plants and exemplary natural community and rare plants. Priority
So yeah,
habitat.
rare plants as, priority
Yeah.
habitat, something like that. Again, just in case this is ever pulled up later as part of public record, just to make sure it's
Yeah.
because every time we get something published in the paper, there's always misquotes. So this is our chance to get actually quoted correctly.
Yeah. Okay, and then on the dead tree removal, the applicant said it'd be better. Sorry, I have to move this window to come down since it is dead, and the kids play down there by the brook. Applicant communicated a safety concern. Do you think the minutes should specify that they were concerned about the safety, or?
I don't even remember. It was a question. Is
Oh,
that what he was
yeah.
asking?
Yeah.
Like, you know,
Yeah, his whole
I
purpose of that one was because his grandkids are going to be playing down there come summer and was concerned
Yeah.
about the falling.
Yeah.
and I think putting safety in there is always a good. It makes people realize that there was actual thought behind it.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Natural heritage. should review the project as well due to one of the trees. Oh, trees being priority habitat. Yeah. I think that's supposed to be trees being within priority habitat.
Okay.
Because yeah, there was just like a small part of the parcel that I think that was priority habitat, and one of the trees was within that area.
Gotcha.
So that could be within. So it looks like all the edits. Um, is everyone okay with those edits that Kristen came up with? Suggested edits. Make that a friendly amendment to add all those edits on there, I guess. Okay. Any other comments on the minutes before we vote? Okay, so we will vote on approving the minutes with the edits as discussed. Kristen,
Aye.
Elizabeth,
Aye.
Erica,
Aye.
Emily.
Aye.
All right, and I am also an aye, so those minutes are approved. Okay, so we have one public meeting tonight, which was continued from our previous meeting. And that is the request for determination of applicability, tree and meadow planting at Miller's Meadow on Coleraine Street, map 48, lot 24. And it has lots plural, but it just says lot 24. Continued from 4/9/2024. And just to remind everyone, the project proposes to establish 1.65 acres of forest and meadow on the slope adjacent to Coleraine Street. An educational kiosk or sign will be installed and the hole will be backfilled. Oriental bittersweet will be removed along the Green River through cuttings with no herbicide being used. And Mitch, do you know, have we gotten anything from Natural Heritage on that yet?
No, they haven't replied. So I think we're taking invasive species removal part out of it. Because we need to get the permit for the grant application that's due on Friday.
Okay. Nancy, are you here to talk about this project?
I'm just here to hear what your concerns are and if you have any questions.
Okay.
Try and answer them and
Okay.
oh, and here comes Peter. So
Oh yeah.
he probably knows more than I do.
Okay. Yeah, so Peter, I don't know if you were just in the meeting or not, but Mitch just said that the invasive species part was going to be removed at this point. Okay. All right. And I think in the last meeting, that's pretty much all we had left is we were waiting on that. So I don't know if anyone else has any. It sounds like we went through, I think we did. Do we have a question about the planting list last time, or did we finish that?
I think we went through it. I
Yeah,
think we questioned the pollinator mix.
Yeah.
And then I went through that mix and I took out any that wasn't anything that wasn't native.
Okay. Do you have that list, Mitch, like the updated list, just so we can
Yeah, I
show
can
it?
find it.
And Peter, I don't know if you had anything else to add at this meeting that didn't come up at the last meeting. I don't know.
I don't think so.
Okay. Does anyone else have any new thoughts that have come up since the last meeting? Any other commissioners?
Saw the article in the paper about it, Nancy.
Oh yeah. I saw.
Um,
Yeah,
I actually
Nancy's
haven't
photo
read
right there.
it,
oh, it even,
I hope it was accurate. Someone mentioned that there was a few things wrong. It wasn't clear that it was the city that was applying for the grant.
Mhm.
But that's secondhand information.
things that stood out to me were that it mentioned digging a canal between the, what was it did say?
It said something about digging a canal.
Yeah.
I did
between
not
the river and
mention
the
that.
lot, allowing floodwaters to stream into a marsh area to mitigate the risk of large-scale flood. Sounds like maybe they're talking about a restoration project to connect the floodplain so that it can have better, which probably I wouldn't describe as digging a canal, but it's hard to get those nuances. And then the viewing platform was another piece that seemed nice, and I didn't remember that bit in our discussion of it, but
Yeah, that's the future. That this is part one. This is phase one, is the
Hmm.
trees and the strip of pollinator stuff.
exactly.
I didn't make that
Second
clear.
take.
I'll make it clear now.
It's good for people to get inspired, and then we don't have to sign off on anything if it's in the paper. We just what you laid out.
I love
Yeah.
that. I'll do that tactic again.
Hmm. All right, so we've got the seed mix here. Does anyone have any thoughts on that?
I'm not a botanist, but can you touch on the Panicum clandestinum? Is that maybe Dicanthelium clandestinum? Do we know? Like the roseate deer, I don't know what the common name is. The roseate. Liz, do you know what the common name of the deer tongue is?
Deer tongue.
Okay.
Sorry, that's all I know it as.
I'm Googling it right now because I'm not sure if I'm mixed up or if that's a different genus or if,
I guess, what's your question?
I guess, is that
The
supposed to
name.
be Dicanthelium clandestinum or is that Panicum clandestinum? I'm not sure.
Did the taxonomists have some fun?
Yeah, I just looked it up and it says Dicanthelium clandestinum, also known as Panicum clandestinum. So
Okay, it's
I
possible
think
there's a
it's the same
different,
thing.
okay. I'm not, like I said, I'm not a botanist and they're always changing names, so I don't,
Yeah,
just making sure that I'm on the same page. Okay,
yeah.
that's all I had.
Okay.
Because one question is, I guess there's some site prep work to doing for the pollinator meadow. If we're doing tilling, do we want any erosion controls?
Yeah, I mean, I think I mean the whole site's in riverfront, right? So
Right.
um I think if there's going to be soil disturbance, there should be some erosion control, just like any other project.
Right. Any preference on what? Just to kind of get the cost together.
Mm, I don't know. It's a very flat. The metal part's very flat. Does anyone have any preference for erosion control?
So Peter made a nice planting plan.
Oh, nice.
Beautiful.
what's standard in terms of erosion controls?
I mean, could be silt fence, could be uh core log, could be straw bales.
Do you think that, so you said it's pretty, the topography is pretty level? And there's not much earthwork, it's just hand planting stuff? Like you're not gonna use a mini cat to dig holes for large saplings or anything like that, right?
I think that like the tree and shrub planting's all by hand, and then the machinery for like tilling the pollinator meadow.
Um, how far is the planting from an actual, well, that's, I don't want to even articulate that. Personally, I would say the lowest bar would be probably sufficient, so like 6-inch wattles.
Mm.
That's my personal comment.
Is that,
It-
that's the
it's all-
area?
it's all inside the road there? It's all on the other side of the road.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So the road's also blocked.
Oh, wait, so I'm sorry, maybe I'm mixed
There's
up.
some
So
on over here, but yeah.
oh, okay. So can we specify like only on the west side and the west side of the road? Or is there any planting on the east side of the road?
Well, I guess it depends on which road you're talking about.
Oh, okay.
Do
Because
you mean Coleraine or Kimball?
yeah, like the road that goes through the
Kimball.
property or Coleraine.
So I guess like if you scroll up,
Kimball.
so I don't think I can annotate, but like kind of like on that northern third section on this view where the planting abuts the resource area. Well, it's all in resource area, but where abuts like top of bank.
River.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but then on the southern third or 2/3 where I don't know, there's a road in between. I don't know. Do we wanna, you know what I mean? Do we wanna
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know what
kind
you
of like
mean.
section it out and then make it kind of just like a straw wattle?
Yeah, are you saying erosion control on the part to the north but not to the south, or
That's my thought, because there's a,
yeah,
I mean, it's level. I know it's technically riverfront. But how much soil migration are we anticipating really from hand planting? I mean, I guess we could put it on that north section of that planting area along that paved section of the road, but I don't know. I defer to the commission on that. My
Mhm.
opinion is not that worried about it. I think a straw wattle at the most
yeah.
would be
I
sufficient.
I think that makes sense. What you're saying, a straw wattle on the part that's to the north of Kimball Drive, where it, along the river.
So like long here,
Yeah,
Yeah.
just like a 6-inch straw wattle.
yeah,
Okay.
Don't quote me on that. I'm not exactly sure what sizes they come in, but I feel like
Okay.
they're like, I don't know, whatever the smaller one. I think there's 2 sizes that the straw wattles usually come in, and I can't remember if it's 6 and 9 or whatever, but the smaller one. And I think they sell those at local hardware stores. But again, don't quote me on that.
All right. Any other thoughts anyone has? This is an RDA, so once we get to motioning, we can, motion for a negative determination with conditions if we think it won't um, impact the resource area. So, I think this would be, if we do a negative determination, I think it would be a type 2, which is the work is within an area subject to protection under the act, but will not remove, fill, dredge, or alter that area. Therefore, said work does not require the filing of a notice of intent since it's in riverfront area.
That's a negative determination type 2.
2, yeah. Does anyone have any other thoughts, or is there anyone from the public who wants to comment on this? I'm not hearing anyone. Anyone want to make a motion?
Make a motion to issue a negative determination type 2 for the RDA at Miller's Meadow.
Second.
Okay,
Oh,
so we have
sorry.
we have a second by Erica there. Any discussion on that? I guess the only discussion so far is the small straw wattle in the area, as we indicated, as a condition.
And then we already discussed native species, like that's gonna be a condition, right? Native species to the county per the Dow Colina publication. Okay,
Yeah,
that's already in there. Okay,
I think that's just one of our standard conditions anyway.
okay.
Any other conditions anyone feels that this project would need? All right, if there's no more discussion, we can vote
So I
on.
guess
Oh,
she
go ahead.
mentioned the use of a cover crop, um, which I guess isn't usually a native species, but it's just like an annual that they use.
Do you know what has, if one has been selected?
I think
What species?
buckwheat has been mentioned.
I guess I have one question about it. If because a lot of the seed mixes already include like sort of a nurse crop in the seed mix, and so I'm wondering if it's already there. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think the nurse crop is something different.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. The nurse crop is,
Uh,
it
May I-
doesn't get plowed under, which is what the cover crop would do.
yeah.
And the cover crop is to condition the soil.
Okay.
And that seed mix does mention to use a certain amount of cover crop.
So I know we had a project recently and we specified using an annual species that would not be reproducing.
Mhm.
So I guess that could be a condition.
Yeah, we'll do that a lot of times if say a project needs to restore a resource area after construction, we mandate that they put down native seed mix, but they finish in December. So they'll put down just an annual winter rye or something just to stabilize it. Would that be amenable? Not necessarily a winter rye, but like an annual.
Yeah, I get this is kind of a weird project because technically the Conservation Commission is the one who submitted the RDA. Um, even though I know Peter, and Nancy and Greenfield and stuff, they've been kind of taking the lead on this, but um, yeah, I think that Mitch, does that sound like a good strategy?
Yep, that was the plan.
Okay. All right, so then I just have the two conditions about the straw wattle and the annual cover crop. Any other discussion on that motion? All right, not hearing any, so we will vote on the negative determination, type 2 for the Miller's Meadow project. Kristen,
Aye.
Erica,
Aye.
Elizabeth,
Aye.
Emily.
Aye.
All right, and I am also an aye. So that project will be moving forward, and good luck with the grant process.
Yeah.
hopefully that works out. Thanks, Peter and Nancy, for being here.
Thank you so much. I'm excited about the project.
Yeah. And thanks, Mitch, for all your hard work you've been putting in on it too.
Yep, no problem.
Oh, where's my cat? Okay. All right. So yeah, we'll project should be good then. All right, so we do have a few other things on our agenda tonight. I was wondering, is everyone, are the conservation commissioners amenable to maybe moving up the enforcement updates on Oak Hill Road, on authorized tree cutting in riverfront area, just so they don't have to sit through the rest of our meeting
Sounds
before
good.
we get to that? Okay. Mitch, do you want to kind of let us know what you know at this point?
Yeah, I think Jeff is here. Um,
Mhm.
I think he
I'm here.
has
Can you
a,
hear me?
yep. We hear ya.
Yep.
You can hear me. Can you see me?
Cannot see you, but we can hear you.
Okay, I think that's good enough.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
that's okay.
And I have
So,
the plan you shared yesterday, Jeff. You want me to pull it up?
Sure.
Jeff, can you see the meeting?
I I can see the map
Okay, great.
and I can see you.
All right. Well,
That's
that
all
will
that
be
counts,
helpful
right?
then. Yep. All right. Do you want to kind of walk us through this?
Okay. So let's see. All right. If you look at the large buildings in the upper left-hand area
Mhm.
of the map, that is Forest Products Associates. And what we did about a year ago, the area that is labeled as phase one, what we did was we had it rezoned. We decided that instead of having that continue as industrial, we would make it residential. And you can see the almost horizontal line that goes from Oak Hill Road to the dotted red line. So that area down there is no longer industrial, it is residential. And there are two proposed buildings along Oak Hill Road. And so what we did was we cut down the trees. I know we have a couple of small drainage ditches over on the larger area, one of which leads to the wetland. I was unaware that the drainage ditch to the left of Oak Hill Road was considered riverfront property. So what Mitch was recommending is in the area that we took some trees out, that we replace it. I have no problem with that. Whatever we're doing around here, we're looking to create swales, garden areas, food forest. I do want to mention that we own, there's a triangle in red to the left of Oak Hill Road. That property we own, there's about 5 acres there. And I think it was about 6 years ago, we planted over 200 modified American chestnuts. And they started out as, little saplings, 8 to 10 inches high. Now they're about 5 feet tall, which is really nice. So in the area, you can see the two buildings or the two little rectangles with stars. That area we cleared. if we need to plant some trees, I have no problem with that.
Can Mitch, maybe, do you know, can you kind of maybe circle on or use your cursor to kind of show on the map where the trees were cut down that we talked about last
Yeah,
time?
it'd be this area.
Okay. So it looks like you cut down those trees, but you are planning to build buildings in that area. Is that correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So I guess, I guess,
Some, well, uh, the majority of the trees were on our property, and anyway, what's there right now is along the road, in in that 30-foot area of road buffer. Um, we left the stumps. What we're going to be doing is we cannot build there. Because you do have to have a bit of buffer on front, back, and on the sides. So anyway, we removed the stumps where there would be a foundation and septic systems. That area has been perk tested. It passed with flying colors. And anyway, in the areas that we cannot build, we left the stumps in place. We're going to grind them down so that lawn and smaller trees can be put in.
okay. I guess one thought that I have is that one of the ways that situations like this get resolved where someone starts doing work but they didn't realize they were in a resource area. One of the ways to resolve that is if what they were going to be doing would need to be permitted, they could just go ahead and start the permitting process, and then we would be reviewing it sort of after the fact what you've already done. And if during, then it would be like approving the buildings also. And then if there's any, remediation that would need to be done for the trees, that would come up during that process.
Mm-hmm. Well,
So I don't know if you're to the point where you are ready to, permit, building those for the wetlands protection, or I guess for the city ordinance, wetland ordinance. But if you were, what you could go ahead and start that process, and then you have 3 years. If you get approval, you have 3 years to do that work after that.
well, the where Mitch had his cursor before.
Mhm.
If you want to put that up, yeah, in that little area, that building is it's on our property, and it's not in the riverfront protection area.
So that's not where the trees were cut down that we were
Well,
talking about
the
last
trees
time.
were cut down, but what Mitch is referring to is, let's see, if I look at the building, I would say the upper left-hand corner is near the riverfront protection area, but it's not going to be in it.
Pull up some photos as well.
I just did a quick and dirty Mass Mapper
Mm,
desktop assessment, and so there are two perennial streams that are, it's not, unless I'm mixed up, it's not just local.
Yeah, no,
And
it's mapped as perennial.
yeah, and it's a cold water fisheries
Okay.
resource as well. It's an unnamed tributary to Green Brook or Glen Brook on the west side. Okay.
Okay, yeah, I like that map. That's something Mitch sent to me a while back. the thing is, you know, I've been in this area for 35 years, and Sue Fisk was raised here, and you know, her mom and dad owned the property for 75. I don't know. It goes back over 100 years. I have Ward Smith as my wetland biologist, and he's a member of 2 different conservation commissions. One of them in a small town meets on the, when do you guys meet? Is it the second and fourth?
Wendell
Yeah,
meets the
second
same
and
night
fourth.
as us, and what Word is on the Wendell Concom, yeah.
Okay, so whenever you're having a meeting, Ward is at a different conservation session. So anyway, Sue was telling me she's, you know, she's seen the brook dry up, and what I would like to have Ward do, and he needs a 4 or a 5 day period to investigate this and determine whether it's perennial or intermittent. But I've been down by this, and I'm going to continue to call it a drainage ditch. You know, we've had plenty of rain, and this river starts up by the Lionel camp. It comes under the road through a 3-foot diameter culvert. It proceeds south, and on our property, there are some concrete abutments which the reservoir main goes through, and it's perfect. It's an exact width. It has a concrete base, and right now, this river is it's 3 feet wide and 6 inches deep. I really think I don't know how this was voted on many years ago, where it was required to have a 2-foot buffer zone, but you know, we're not polluting the area. And I think that maybe, you know, just like we have first, second, third, and fourth degree burns, these small little drainage ditches need to be reclassified as not rivers.
Can I just touch on that, Jeff, for a second? So
Sure.
so there is a state Wetlands Protection Act that regulates a 200-foot riverfront resource area associated with all perennial streams, and you can check whether a stream is perennial based on whether, if you look at the most current USGS topographic map, if there's a solid blue line, it's perennial, bottom line. It's very difficult to dispute that, and Ward knows the regs because he's on the Wendell Concom. I trust he'll be able to give you all the best of advice. But we also do have a local ordinance that regulates a 200-foot riverfront for intermittent streams. In this case, it's not only a perennial stream, which means it's local and state jurisdictional, but it's also a cold water fisheries habitat. So the 200 riverfront is not a buffer zone, it's a resource area. So that's basically like essentially a wetland. Even though it's technically an upland, it's protected like a wetland. So it's a resource area. So that shaded area, even though this hasn't been officially delineated, and it could be greater than this kind of horizontal blue lines, is the minimum assumption of the resource area. Does that make sense? Is that helpful, or did I just confuse you more?
Ward confuses me enough.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And I'm doing a stream stats on the side right now. So if I'm not like looking at the screen, it's because I'm doing stream stats.
No, it's fine. Yeah.
In the Wetlands Protection Act, there's another section that says, you know, even if it is a solid blue line on the topo, if it's less than, you know, a certain square mile drainage area, then you can overcome the presumption, but it's a difficult presumption to overcome, but I'm just doing that on the side, just to,
Yeah.
just for giggles.
Yeah. But I guess the the main point is even if that does come back and shows that it's an intermittent stream, the same riverfront area standards still apply. And I guess what I was getting at was, you know, just because there's riverfront area, it doesn't mean that no work can be done there. It just needs to be permitted. So that's where I was saying if, you know, if there was work that you needed to do in the riverfront area, that included cutting trees down and building things or whatever, it just needs to be permitted, and you know it would go through the process and we would determine if any conditions need to be met, or you know if it's an allowable thing based on the regulations.
Mhm.
So I guess I don't want it to sound like, you know, just because this is riverfront area, it means you can never do anything with the land, and you know, the land is forfeit. It's not anything that strict. Which is where I was
Okay.
saying if this was work that, you know, is associated with buildings you're gonna build, you can file a permit for that work and we can review it even after the fact. Now we can review it.
Okay.
And
About how long does that process take?
so you would fill out the form. uh I think we have to respond. Is it 2 weeks, Mitch? Is that right? Or 3 weeks?
I think it's 21 days.
20, okay, yeah, 21 days. So once you file that, we have to hold a meeting and respond to that within 21 days. And then
Mhm.
once that's done, um, if we, you know, have permitted the work to begin, there's like a 10-day waiting period where you're not supposed to do anything just in case someone appeals. But then after that, you're good to go, and you have up to 3 years to do the work after that. So I think that might be the easiest way forward. Um, and Mitch can kind of help with the paperwork if you need, or Ward. Um,
Yeah, Ward will know the performance standards. I guess the only concern is like, you get a percentage of the riverfront area to work in, but there's not a ton of riverfront on the lot. I think this
True.
was, cut like this. So if you do the
Yeah.
whole process, you might only get like another 1,000 square feet or something.
Does anyone else have any thoughts on that?
Just curiously, so I did a stream stats and it's running really slow. I'm so sorry, Jeff. And the first time I selected a delineation point pretty much right to the west of this area, the statistics were invalid, which usually means the drainage area is too small. Which could be in your favor, Jeff. I'm double checking it right now, but Ward knows what he's talking about. It's not his first rodeo, so he'll be able to be good advice for you.
Yeah, and I guess that the main difference there would be if it is intermittent, then the form that you would file would only be for the city ordinance and not the Wetlands Protection Act. Whereas if it's perennial, it would apply to both the Wetlands Protection Act and the city ordinance.
Okay, scratch that. I just went one cell further to the downstream area, and now we have a drainage area of 0.55, which
Okay.
means if it's over 0.5 square miles, it's confirmed perennial. So you're right on the threshold. But yeah, either way. Consultant such as Ward will be able to help you with that.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Would you
Mitch,
like
I'll be
a,
down.
sorry, I didn't
Oh.
mean to interrupt. I was just gonna ask if you wanted like a follow-up email about, kind of what we've talked about here to forward along to Ward, if that would be helpful.
If you would like to do that, that would be great. So yeah, let's get that email off to him, and then I can chat with Ward, and I'll be down, within the next week or so, and we can fill out some paperwork and get a permitting process going.
Okay.
So terrific. So if we're done with part one, can we get on to part two? And if Mitch could bring up the map that he scanned for me there, that's the one. So so far, what Ward has done is he has put the little flags around the wetland area, and well, it looks black, but it really was blue ink. As you can see, there's kind of the wavy blue line that's traveling north to south and going through a blackened out building.
Mhm. The one that intersects the wetland.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
a blue line. It travels down and it goes to the wetland. Yes.
Yeah.
So what we'd be looking to do there is treat this swale or drainage ditch as, I guess you could call it wetland itself, so that we could put houses around there, stay 25, 50 feet away. And the same where I have the other semi-parallel line going through another blackened out house.
There's
So-
another perennial stream, McCard Brook, that comes over on the east side of this development.
Yeah, it moves around.
It's on the USGS topographic map as a solid
Yeah,
line.
well,
Yeah, I think that might be, I don't know. It's hard. I'm trying to look at the scale between looking at where McCard Brook is and this map.
Yeah, there's that parcel that's kind of like off to the right, Travis, that's to the right of the hand-drawn houses. That's a good shape that matches clearly. It's lot 770 on Mass Mapper.
Oh yeah.
That's like a good benchmark. So that perennial stream goes right through that neighborhood.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and you can kind of see at the very bottom of this map where the
Oh,
contour
yeah.
lines kind of make like an S curve.
Yeah.
That's right where the stream comes through. So yeah, there is another perennial stream that's actually even a named brook that comes through there.
and I've seen McCard on one of our surveyed maps, and it's not there anymore. It's gone. It's moved.
So Word would be able to, for your preliminary planning purposes, get you a resource area delineation, figure out where your jurisdictional resource area boundaries are, where your jurisdictional setbacks are per the Wetlands Protection Act and the local ordinance, and then figure out where your developable areas are. And if you want to encroach into the resource area boundaries, he can help you work through what the performance standards are and what you would need to do in order to meet those performance standards if you wanted to build in those areas.
Well, that's the thing. He did, he put the flags out for the wetland area, and he followed this this drainage ditch swale. He followed up. He marked that out. But he encountered the other one to the right, and he stopped right there. He said, "You know what? You need to chat with the powers that be, because if those two squiggly lines that are running north and south, if they are afforded a 200-foot buffer zone on either side, then all the little rectangles are gone, and the only thing I would basically be able to build there would be the 8 houses in red. And so I don't know. We basically need to figure something out, because what would make this over 55 community plausible is, as you're building roads, you have a home on either side. The homes help pay for the street that would go through there.
Yep, I think maybe if, my advice is, if Ward doesn't have the best advice, find another consultant that can give you other advice, but it's,
Do you
it's
have any
not,
recommendations?
I don't know, can we really do that? I'm not sure that that's, but it's not just, we're not the only powers that be, it's the state too. These are
think-
state regulated resource areas too, so.
So if those two little drainage ditches, swales,
Perennial streams.
drainage ditch, and there's really nothing flowing through them. There's a trickle. Can they be considered quote unquote wetland, where they have 100-foot buffer zone, but if you do the permitting, you can get within 25 feet. I don't need to get within 25 feet of them, but it would be nice to have more elderly housing, which is something we desperately need.
No, I'm not an expert. You need to hire a consultant that is an expert, but if you want to get within 25 feet of a perennial stream, you need to be in new agriculture or old agriculture. If you're not in agriculture, you're not getting within 25 feet unless you're finding some other loophole that I can't think of off the top of my head.
Mitch said something the other day. I don't know. I'm not going to quote him, but there's, I guess there's 100-foot buffer zone, but you can move closer if you don't disturb the wetland.
There's no buffer zone. Riverfront is a resource area, so it's not a buffer zone. The whole 200-foot riverfront area is a resource area. There's an outer 100-foot and an inner 100-foot, and it depends on what you're doing, and you have to read the performance standards. It's at 10.58. It's very long, and a consultant can help you work through that.
Yeah, and essentially it comes down to, if they, if you hire a consultant and they determine that those are perennial streams, then that's going to be a riverfront area under Wetlands Protection Act. If they think it's an intermittent stream, that would be riverfront area under our ordinance. If they don't even believe it is a stream, then you can go based on that advice. The commission could also hire, or have a consultant represent us to go out and determine whether they're streams or not. But I think just looking at a map like this, we can't really say, like we're not we're not the experts in determining whether is there a stream or not. We can just tell you if it is, then these are the standards that are going to apply that we would be regulating under.
I will also just kind of on that comment, if we did hire a third party review for your application, that's on that you pay for that.
Yeah, that's true.
The applicant, not you personally, but globally, the applicant pays for that.
Yes. So the map you're referring to that shows McCard Brook, what is that map?
Can I do a screen share? I've got it on Mass Mapper right now. Is that cool? Hold on. Oh, let me just do this guy.
And the mass mapper streams aren't 100% accurate.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
You're gonna really want to have a delineation to fine tune this. So here's the USGS. Here's Oak Hill Road. This is the town line. Oops, let me get rid of that. So this is the unnamed tributary. That's a solid blue line on the most recent USGS topographic map. So assumed perennial, but you can try to overcome that presumption. And then here's McCard Brook. Again, it's shown as a solid blue line on the most current USGS topographic map, so assumed perennial.
Uh-huh.
And then here's that cluster of buildings.
Yeah.
Let me turn that off because it's kind of, here's that kind of funny shaped parcel, Travis, that we were talking about
Yeah.
earlier. That's a good benchmark. So I've also got the DFW cold water fisheries resource layer turned on, and both of those perennial streams are mapped as DFW cold water habitats, which means they're not just perennial streams, but they're significant habitat for cold water fisheries. So it's an extra layer of, I guess, consideration. This is just the statewide mass DEP layer for wetlands. This isn't
What
perfect.
is that?
It's just an estimated statewide across the state of Massachusetts. The mass DEP estimates roughly wetlands. It's not perfect.
Mhm.
It's just a kind of a desktop planning tool for people to use to estimate roughly where wetlands are. It's not permitting level. You would need to have this delineated, and it seems like this is what Ward was delineating when he was out there. Then there's
Yeah.
this other guy over here, and then there's this stream and then this stream. So you've got a lot of resource areas in this kind of vicinity where you want to do work. So, and then there's looks like some kind of intermittent stream over here, which if that is there, would be protected under the city ordinance. And we do have a 200-foot riverfront area under the city ordinance. So there's a lot happening on this little property here. So
Mhm.
I mean,
So
not
so
like Travis said, not a deal breaker. I just think that, you know, a consultant would really help you.
yeah.
Yeah. The first step is mapping out what all your resource areas are, and then, you know, they can do that for you and advise on what could be done relative to those resource areas.
Yeah, I would ask them to, I mean, if I were you, Jeff, I would ask them to give you a map of the resource areas and then like the setbacks and the riverfront, and then you can see what you have to work with. And if you want to work beyond that, ask them for advice on permitting pathways forward.
Yeah. I'm looking at the blue line to the left of Oak Hill Road. Yeah, that general area. Now there's a blue line, then there's like a light green line. What's that?
Yeah, so this dark blue line is the cold water fisheries resource, and this streamline never matches perfectly with the DEP streamline. They're always slightly off center. I don't know. So that's why it
They're-
looks like it's double. I'm sorry. I can
They're
turn off.
supposed to be the same line, just
Yeah, it's
different.
really,
different.
yeah, it's that. If that's helpful. Yeah, none of there's multiple layers. I've got my favorites that I always pull up, but they never match perfectly, which is why we
That's
have people go out and delineate.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's why delineations are important because these aren't entirely accurate of where they are.
Want me to stop sharing now?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm looking at what you have on the screen there, and uh, that so you've got McCard Brook. It's not there. It actually goes through that teardrop shaped wetland area. As I say, it's
Oh, like, I see what you're saying. It goes through, it goes this way.
yeah.
There is, so see this blue line? So this is mapped as an intermittent stream, and then this is saying McCard Brook goes to the
McCard
east.
is that it's not there.
So again, the presumption is on you as the applicant to show us
Yeah.
what's going on out there, because we're just volunteers. I mean, you
Yeah.
know, like you
Yeah,
gotta
I
show us
get
what the existing conditions are, because we don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, have someone delineate that for you and show us what's there.
Gotcha. Okay, it's getting past my bedtime.
Okay.
Are we good?
I think so, yeah.
All right. Well, I thank you folks for your time, and
All right. Thanks for
it's been informative. Have a good evening.
all right, you too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. All right. And Mitch, do you think you could just send a quick email about what we said the first time about the first part, I guess, whether it'd be possible to file some permitting, just to kind of summarize what we said during that part?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
Did I miss, are we in, like, is there an enforcement action, or we're
It's
just
a
gonna roll it into
very
permitting?
informal enforcement process
Okay.
so far. I think in general, it's, as long as people are doing something, we're keeping it informal. And then if they're not
Yeah.
doing something, escalating. So,
Yeah, makes sense.
okay. So,
I think we
all
actually
right.
have another enforcement matter.
Oh, okay.
I think someone's here about the museum.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we could do that part. We could do that too, since we're on enforcement updates right now. Yeah. Mitch, I don't know if you've had communications to talk about or anything since our last meeting.
I sent a letter out, invited James to talk about the matter.
Okay.
Hello,
Hi,
everyone.
welcome.
Hi,
Welcome.
can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah, so at our last meeting, we were looking at um some pictures where it looked like some boulders maybe were deposited on the stream bank. It seemed like maybe some reinforcement work that wasn't permitted, so we were just kind of curious what was going on there. And
yes. Well, I have an emergency going on here with the erosion.
mhm.
Um, since last July, we've had 3 flood events here on the river. Those are documented at the Leiden Coleraine gauge.
Mhm.
Okay, so we had similar problems back with Hurricane Irene in 2011, and we got an emergency permit to fix the river banks.
Mhm.
Okay, so and those, we ran out of time and money to take care of all that damage, and it's been getting worse ever since. But since July has been really unprecedented, and it's scary, and I'm really in a panic. And there's places where we're close to being up to the building now. And I don't know how familiar you all are with this site down here. this is the oldest site in town. It actually was Deerfield. There's been something being made here on this property for 320 years. The Mass Historic Commission has deemed this an industrial archaeological site. So, you know, we're concerned about the building and losing the bank in a number of places. And it's a very complicated property down here. You've got adjacent to us, between us and the Mill Street Bridge is town property. At the other end of the building is a whole section of bank that was rebuilt during the Berkshire Gas remediation about a dozen years ago. In both those places, all the rock stabilization that was put there is now gone. The bank, we have sheer cliffs on either side of the buildings, so to speak, especially up near the bridge. And the river has eaten away in alongside the bridge abutments. So there's sort of like a whirlpool there now that's really gouging out our property. So it's really a very difficult situation to be in. I had an opportunity to get some fill, and after the last storm, you know, these are storms that are lapping at the building, and when they top the bank, it's just eroding the whole top of the bank. So I've been trying to put something, and also with all this rain we're having, if you can imagine this roof of this building, there's a tremendous amount of water coming off the roofs and, you know, causing erosion on the riverbanks when it's flowing in. So I've been trying to put some kind of barrier on top of the banks to keep, you know, the banks from eroding. So the town property is failing, the reinforcement on the banks. The Berkshire Gas section, which is about 50 feet into our property, has failed. If you look at it, all the rock that was put there is now in the river. Okay, so I have no reason not to believe that this is going to continue. And, you know, with all due respect to the commission, I wish you could see, I have videos of what this looks like. I'd love to show you sometime. But over the last couple months, the last thing on my mind was going through all the hoops to try and get permits. I'm going to save the building. We've got 11 tenants in this building now, some of the most prominent artists and craftspeople in the region. Their rents are keeping the museum going here. We really don't have a lot of resources. I put all the money into this building, trying to preserve it. If our rental LLC fails, the museum is going to fail. So I'm really in a pinch here. I really think I would like some help from the town on this. I think the town has some responsibility. I don't see anybody from Berkshire Gas showing up to check on their work, which presumably was done with engineering and all that. That's completely failed in less than 12 years. So I'm not sure what else I can do. I've tried everything on that riverbank, and these storms are just scouring it. If you look at the other side, and again, I don't know who's monitoring this, if anybody. I'm the only one that's seeing it on a daily basis for the last 20 years. The last 9 months, there's been more erosion than the last 20 years. If you look across the on the other side of the river, which is the Greenfield cemetery side, you'll see some rocks on the other side. Yeah, along there. Just since in the last year or so, a little more than a year, about 30 feet, that was all land, has been eroded. There was 30-year-old, 40-year-old trees taken out in the last couple storms. So this is what we got going on down there.
I'm sorry, what's your first name?
James,
James, thank you. I'm sorry, I couldn't see it. Just says JTERP.
right?
So I actually worked on this project when Berkshire Gas did the remediation project, like I guess 15 years ago, we're figuring out. And there were like coir logs and all kinds of stuff on the right descending stream bank. On the opposite bank is what's showing here. Those are all washed out. Are those still there? They were anchored in with duckbill anchors, but
That, like I said, you see that right where you're pointing now, that's
yeah.
all brand new from the last two storms. It's that whole side of the river has been scoured out.
So those are gone. Those giant coconut coir logs and those tree revetments, those are all gone.
I think maybe farther down, you may be thinking
Okay.
they're a little farther back. But my point is that whole section over there was about 30 or so feet of land out. And you can see where the waterfall is,
Yeah.
goes in a bit, yeah. So that's all getting taken out. And I mean, it's been really dramatic. You got gigantic trees coming down that river, smashing into the bank, smashing into trees. It's really scary.
Travis, I
Mhm.
mean, I don't this like James said, this is obviously a historic, it's a Massachusetts Historic Commission identified point. Like it's not good that you took matters into your own hands, James, but I don't see why this couldn't qualify for an emergency cert,
Well,
right?
with all due respect, I mean, to me, this was on par with Irene. I mean, it wasn't all at once, but these last 3 or 4 storms have done as much damage as Irene did.
You're not
And
joking. You're right. We got 14 inches in Greenfield in July. That's
yeah,
unprecedented. And 9 in August. Yeah,
so
you're
I
not.
have I have a tenants in the basement, which the basement floor is about 4 feet below the river, the top of the bank. And so what I did after Irene is I put in catch basins in the basement with pumps. And when it rains now, I don't sleep. That last storm we got, I live in Deerfield, we got 1 inch and 7/10 of rain. Now, when I got up, I've got an app on my phone. I can read the cold rain gauge. That was at flood stage. And so I had no idea it would be that much of a problem that day. We had 1.7 inches of rain, but you don't know what's going on up on Hogback Mountain in Vermont, because that's where that starts. And then you've got the Deerfield and the Connecticut backing upriver. So it's really, you just never know with these storms what I'm going to face down there. Where you see this picture in the boulders there, right underneath there is where all that rock from the Berkshire Gas project has slumped down and gone away.
I guess my
So
question is, I guess for Travis, Mitch, does this sound like it would qualify for an emergency cert? So basically, James, an emergency certification gives you about 24 hours. So if you wanted to file that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mitch, because you're our agent, so you know more than me, but I think you file this paperwork, you email Mitch and he does the paperwork for you, and you get basically like 24 hours to do something fast. So it's not like you have to like slog through the permitting process, like you were saying earlier. You don't have time for that stuff.
Yeah,
well,
we'd respond in 24 hours, and then you have 30 days to do it.
Okay.
well, let me point. So what I did was up at the call it the West End near the bridge. There was a big hole left from Irene that I never got to fix, and that had gotten worse and worse. within a few feet of the building. So we dumped some rocks in there. And then I talked about the Berkshire Gas and what still needs to be done though is I need to do some like basic landscaping back there to level off one area because of all the water coming off the roof created a kind of a steep slope right behind the building. And we take people around when we do tours. And by the way, we got several hundred people a year coming to the museum. We got people coming from all over the world now, school groups. And we take people for tours around the back. And I had somebody slip and fall. So I'm trying to repair that. And really, what we put there for rock should be spread out a little more and set a little better. So that's where we're at with that.
Does the Mass Historical Commission get involved? Like if we did an emergency cert for bank stabilization, would Mass Historical get involved because there could be taps and dies in there?
Well, a good portion of the whole bank along the back of the river is in places solid mass of steel and metal. There was foundries here. There's iron slag. There's literally a whole trail of steel stamps that were made here going down the river. When they dredged the river, I got a picture of it. It's incredible what's along that bank. Not that any of that is really super important, but what's more important is what they've done. They've done a couple of digs there to identify where certain features like stone wall, like walls that supported some of the waterworks and so forth.
So I guess my question is, if you did an emergency certification to stabilize that bank, would Mass Historical have any issues with you just rip-wrapping that bank?
That's a good question because, the property is eligible for National Historic Register. But that's like a long-term goal to get that done. But it is eligible. Nobody's ever raised any issues about, preserving anything in particular on the bank. And the way I look at it, I think, having a good face of rocks there is going to protect what's there. There's also, I don't know if you've noticed it, but there used to be a grist mill there that burned down 1910. And there's one of the grist mill wheels is up in that area next to the bridge. And that's about to go in the river. So, we've got all the paperwork from, I don't know if you remember the whole episode of removing the dams and dam removal, but we've got a lot of correspondence with the Historic Commission on that. And if you want, I can, make some inquiries.
That's not really our jurisdiction. I also thought it got unmapped for priority habitat, but it is still mapped as priority habitat. So it's in natural heritage and Mass Historic. So I guess, Mitch, long story short, I'm wondering if he filed an emergency cert to stabilize that bank and protect this building where, as for all the reasons James just listed, you've got 24 hours to issue the cert and 30 days to implement the work, but how does that affect other jurisdictions? I guess my question.
I know Natural Heritage has their own emergency pathway.
So you'd have to file both.
But I don't think we overrule anyone.
And we wouldn't have to wait for them to respond to their emergency pathway.
I don't think so, but that doesn't like relieve you of having to go through them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And just to go with the criteria for emergency cert is that, you know, has to be a risk to safety and you can't wait the 4 to 6 weeks to normally permit it.
And I think it has to be, doesn't it have to be, I was thinking an emergency certification had to be performed by um a government entity or ordered to be done by a government entity,
Yeah, by a public agency
public agency, yeah.
to perform the work or order the work to be performed.
Yeah.
May I,
So James, so there is a road right along the top of Bank there. There is a historic building, right, basically at the top of Bank there. There's sediment migration with moving to down gradient waters. I don't know if that site's been totally abated of DeNapple, but is there any contamination left out there in the
you mean
bank?
from the Berkshire gas? Um, they've got wells, all around the building, and I'm assuming they monitor it.
So probably not an issue.
You know, every once in a while, you smell hydrocarbons.
I hate that
You
smell.
know,
Yeah.
I doubt it's, and also, I don't know if you remember, they put a 25-foot deep wall from the top of Mead Street at Mill Street all the way in front of our building down to the end of our property as a barrier to that plume. And that, again, I feel like we're constantly under assault here at this property because there's been so many things like that done that have been really disruptive to business and everything. But I would have to imagine that their cleanup is done.
Well, Mitch, can you reach out to him and fill him in on what it would take to deal with that?
Just to be
Can-
clear, when we got after Irene, we actually got emergency certification from the Mass DEP. They were involved also at the time. I guess they were the ones giving out the emergency permits because there was so much damage.
Yeah, I guess it just sounds like any new work like this would probably need to be permitted like that, or whether an emergency certification or
Or like
or
a
not.
real bank restoration with bioengineering and not rock, which would be better.
I mean, maybe, but I
Preferably.
mean, there's we have projects like the DOT emergency certification where they were putting all the riprap on the side of the stream to protect the road. It's kind of that same thing, except this is a historic building and that was a road.
Well, also keep in mind Mead Street continues, and all that is the same situation. It's
Yeah.
all that riprap is deteriorating, and with the way things are going, that may be a problem down the road also for the town. So
It would be awesome if you could get a grant to do some kind of bioengineering. So basically emergency certs are just, throw some riprap down, which is not great for a number of reasons. One, imagine the hot sun beating down on these rocks in the summer, and then a flashy thunderstorm comes and those hot rocks get bathed in all that rainwater, and all that hot water is going into your cold water fisheries resource area, which is not
Right.
great. that decreases habitat value. I mean, we've got dragonflies, we've got turtles, we've got all these animals in the river. And then if you just rip wrap the bank, you're just losing all that bank habitat. Rip wrap is bad, right? I know that it's needed in some emergencies. So bioengineering would be a really great opportunity for bank stabilization. But it's certainly more expensive. And so I don't know if you have any
Well,
opportunity to look at grants or anything, but it would be
oh, I would
really great.
definitely, because, in fact, just so you let you know, there's 3 trees just downriver from our property. All the other trees along there, the beavers have cut them down. There was some beautiful sycamore trees down
Yeah,
there.
I remember.
So I think when they did the Berkshire remediation, they put these 3 trees in, and I've been taking care of them. I've been putting the sleeves around them to keep, and I've been trying to get stuff to grow on the bank along, our property. But I mean, there's years go by and you get a 4 or 5-year-old tree, and next thing you know, it's gone. That bank just keeps getting scoured of anything that's on it.
That's
So
why the bioengineering is good, because this is basically a very manipulated stretch of the river. It's between multiple dams. It's trying to find its equilibrium. It's trying to get connected to the floodplain, and it can't because it's between all these dams. So that's why the bioengineering is actually a better restoration technique than just rip wrapping it, because that's just more anthropogenic manipulation, allowing it to kind of find a little bit of its floodplain with some softer touches, if you will, would be better. But that's more money, and that's probably not
Well,
to be covered under an emergency cert, and that would be covered under a grant if you can get that. And that's just what I'm
oh, I
saying.
would,
Think
I would
about that.
definitely, well, thank you. I would definitely look into that, because I think that is a long-term solution.
Yeah.
I know the rock isn't, good for the ecology there,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it
but
is what it is. Sometimes you
but
just need to do it, but
there's also, I mean, like I said, a lot of that bank is not rock. It's it's metal and
yeah,
iron and slag and things like that. So it's a
Yep.
complicated place.
Mhm.
But I don't know if you can direct me to any resources on that, on the bioengineering. I would definitely look into it. I'm not opposed, to applying for a grant or even paying for something like that. That seems it would be a big improvement.
Emily, looked like you had something.
Yeah, just this site has come up in some talks and research that I know that FERCog has done. I was looking at the hazard mitigation plan for Greenfield, and I didn't see this site called out. But of course, one of the high priorities is to map high vulnerability sites like yours. And when you look at the river, like if you look at the map and you look upstream and you look downstream, the reason why you're getting all of this pressure and why the river's trying to change the landscape there is because there's nowhere else for it to go. And all of the floodplain above it, upstream, is houses, or it's cut off from the river. So there's no place for it to go. And it's huge lakes that are straightened, that are running along the road. So it's just got all this velocity, and it comes down and it hits you. And like Kristen was saying, it's trying to find the floodplain. It's trying to find a place to go. And so you're just at this crux point. And you're not alone. There's lots of other, hinge points. So this, I might be worthwhile to circle back around to the entities that made the hazard mitigation plan. It was a priority to map properties like this to see what can be done. And, Berkshire Gas is right there. It's, if something, the flood events that are happening are getting worse and more frequent. And so you're sort of on the front lines of critical infrastructure that could be affected by this. So in the moment, you are part of this system, and we have to ask you to, get the proper permits in order to do what you can do, and getting a grant to do something that's more resilient, like what Kristen's outlining, probably would be more effective. But you're still in the middle of this climate crisis that is hitting all of us, and that really, the town as a whole needs to be able to respond to. And I'm not wearing this as my, I'm not making any judgments as what, as a Conservation Commission member, I'm not saying the town is going to do anything, but just sort of reflecting. And so maybe circling back around to the people who are interested in making sure that we have climate resilience is a direction to go. There's municipal vulnerability planning action grants, and FERCog has worked with folks. So, you're taking the brunt of this, and you're not alone in that, and it affects the whole community. So,
All right, good. I'd be happy to participate in something like that. So who at the FERCog I would talk to?
you might connect with Kimberly McPhee. She's very knowledgeable about the river.
Okay.
She's worked with some consultants who've done studies. That'd be a good place to start, and she might be able to refer you to see who would be good partners.
You say Kimberly?
Kimberly, MACPHEE, Nook McPhee at FERCog.
I don't know if this is an appropriate question, but I was wondering, like, obviously there must have been other damage around town from this storm. What does the town, for their own properties, what's the process for them to do repairs in a situation like this? Do they have to get permits, go through the Conservation Commission and everything?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of times we've had some like emergency certifications where they come to us where there's like a road that's being washed out, and they have to apply and get an emergency certification for that. Or there was there was an impact at the Miller's Meadow property where there was this erosion going on, and so they had to get permits to fix that erosion on the stream bank. And then also the city just did a notice of intent for stream bank restoration at the Green River swimming area,
Right.
because that stone wall is about to be washed out. So they just went through that process with us, and they are doing like a whole bioengineer, doing all these plantings on a restored bank. So yeah, they're going through all that stuff too.
Okay. So where do we settle out here?
Yeah,
should I
that's
talk
what
to
I was
Mitch?
gonna.
To talk to Mitch about like applying for an emergency permit at this point?
Yeah, Mitch, do you have any suggestions? I mean, I'm not sure. It doesn't seem like it would make sense
It-
to like have him remove all of it.
Mm.
Erica,
Is-
go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, are you looking to do more right this second, or, I mean, or do you feel like it's what you've done to sort
Well,
of stabilize for now? I mean,
oh, I think we went a long way to solve some of the immediate problems, but I think we could spread it out and make it cover a little more ground and stabilize it. So it's, the rocks are a little more set in position. And then, like I said, I got an area where I want to, it's above the bank up against the building where I want to level off, and I would have to bring in some fill, some gravel, and then loam and things like that. So, I mean, I don't think there's any, need to do something immediately, but I keep thinking, when's this next storm coming?
so it seems like the emergency is over kind of thing, but going forward, anything else you want to do needs to.
Right, and I would like to look into the bioengineering and all that, because it may be the time to plan something if we're going to go forward with more work. But for right now, I'm comfortable with, we've kind of, uh, took care of the real dramatic erosion, the spots where it was coming up near the building. So, but there are some places where I hadn't been able to put any because it's so steep. If you put anything, it's just gonna go in the river.
There's a lot of bedrock there too, right? I mean,
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think
it's got to be pretty close.
on the left bank anyways, the right bank's very alluvial, but the left bank's like, there's some bedrock, especially right underneath that top bridge, right? If I remember
Yeah,
correct.
but it's, you got to look real close at it. Some of it is solid, literally solid iron.
Oh,
It looks like rock, but it's iron slag, which came out of foundries and mixed with steel stamps and taps and dies, and it's all corroded in places. Um, you really
so
have to look at it close to see what I'm talking about, but um,
I guess like what's our message? What are we saying to James here? No more putting fill in the riverbank and in jurisdiction without an emergency cert or permit?
I
That
think that
that's
seems
that's
like the
kind of the
best way
way, yeah.
forward.
yeah. Well,
I mean,
that's
I
what
agree with.
I'm sorry,
I was gonna
that's what
say,
your letter requested. And so
Yeah,
will honor that, I won't do any more.
mhm.
Um,
yeah.
and
And I
then
think even with that work that you were describing with, moving some of it around and like bringing in fill, that sounds like it would need to be permitted as well.
yes, well, I think I got a
So,
little breathing room now that,
okay.
I might be, that might be the way to go is just, so that everybody is clear of what's happened and what needs to be done. We don't have the resources to hire,
Yeah.
an engineering firm, say, or something. Um, but any advice, anybody in the town or FERCog or somebody wants to give us, I'm willing to listen.
Yeah.
So I will talk to Mitch about
Okay.
putting, working up a request for a permit. And what's the difference? What's an RDA versus a permit?
Yeah, so an RDA is a request for determination of applicability, which is sort of like the lower level permitting where you're asking whether this is a project that will impact a resource area. And if it is, then you need to file a notice of intent.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of a two-step process where you can file an RDA, and then if you find out you need to do an NOI, you can just do an NOI. Or if you know it's going to be impacting a resource area, you can just jump straight to the NOI. But like the project we had earlier in the meeting was an RDA where we gave a negative determination saying it wasn't going to impact the resource area, so they don't need to file a notice of intent. So that's kind of like the lowest level of, kind of like the easiest,
Yeah.
if it's not going to be impacting the resource area.
But
No, I just
anything on
wanted to,
bank would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Would,
think bank
yeah,
You're
bank
gonna need an
would be a
NOI.
resource area
yeah,
though.
yeah.
Yeah. You're
so
not
I
getting
just
an
want
NOI.
to, I just want to also say, I mean, since Irene, I did make a couple of approaches to the conservation commissions, the ones existing at the time, even about 2 years ago, asking if there was a way that we could continue work off that original permit from Irene, because I hadn't, a lot of the erosion is still from that. And I was always told that I needed to start by getting an engineering firm, which just wasn't, in the cards for us. So,
I guess it depends on the level of complexity of what you're doing, maybe.
okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, and if any of you want to come down and visit and look, I'll elaborate. Um,
Okay. Thanks.
And I was just gonna say, I mean, this has nothing to do with, and I'm not only saying it as me, But the fairgrounds, they went through, they got somebody to help them, and that was a huge project.
It's
Oh,
right
when they
up-
had the,
right up gradient from you, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, so maybe to contacting them and finding out, what they did, and maybe going that, whoever
Okay.
they went through.
I think that was USDA.
That's
oh,
good.
yeah,
Mm, so,
okay.
Yeah, because I remember you had like caskets sticking out, James, just over the river above
Oh.
where, like across the stream from your building. There were,
What,
you know,
there was what? Say that
Talking about
again? I'm sorry?
sticking out,
Caskets.
caskets
Oh,
sticking out.
you're talking about the cemetery, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
that's right, that's the other thing. Right across the river, it's all sandy glacial till,
I
right? I
know,
mean, and
yeah.
that um sometimes I wonder if that could be a problem, if that ever slumped into the river and
Mhm.
Yeah.
so it's a complicated area.
I actually did an erosion hazard mapping project on the Green River right after Irene, and that right descending stream bank right across the stream from your building is definitely an erosion hazard.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah, I think that you've got to be qualified for some kind of funding, and I'm not an expert. I think Emily would be a better resource for you than anybody, but you've got to be able to get something. You're a historic building, you're a known historic site, you're in priority habitat, you're between two historic mills or dams or whatever.
Yeah.
You
I mean,
got to
we
be able
might-
to get something.
I don't actually know how this would work in terms of this project, but the Community Preservation Act funds that Greenfield
Mhm.
has,
Oh,
I was
yeah.
wondering about that. Yeah.
historic preservation.
Oh, yeah.
And conservation. So that might be something to explore as well.
Good. Yes. We already got a little funding to do a project. We're restoring a very rare product that was made here. And so that'll be done, I don't know, a few months. So we know the process for that. So yeah,
Mm.
that's a good idea.
Yeah, and I was gonna say maybe talk to the historical commission to see if they
Yeah.
know of any, programs to help historic
Oh.
buildings.
We have an ongoing discussion about the status down here about the being on the register and all that. And they're going through a survey now, an updated survey of
Oh, yeah.
all the properties. So we're involved in that. And
Mhm.
so, well, thank you all for your
Yeah.
sympathy.
Yeah, good luck.
Okay.
I hope there's some funding out there for you.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right, folks. Thank you.
All right, have a good
Have a
night.
good
Okay.
night. Ugh, I hate climate change.
Uh,
Such a bummer.
Mitch, do we have any other enforcement updates to talk about?
No, it's just those two.
Okay. All right. So the only two things left on our agenda tonight then are letters to the mayor. And everyone did get a copy of those. I don't know if anyone was able to take a look at those. I'm going to share them on my screen here. Oh, oh, there's the folder. I couldn't remember what folder I was trying to look at. All right, so first we have a letter to the mayor about Stone Ridge Lane. And so I kind of adapted this from the original letter we sent to the former mayor about Stone Ridge Lane. So I'm just gonna like read through it and feel free to stop me at any point if we think something needs to be changed. But I think overall, it just needs to be informative to get the point across, I think. So,
think so.
so I have Dear Mayor DeSorger, Conservation Commission requests that you transfer the undeveloped 13-acre parcel near Stone Ridge Lane, parcel ID R03-2-0, to the care, custody, management, and control of the Conservation Commission. This process would ensure permanent protection to the parcel as conservation land under Article 97 of the Massachusetts Constitution. For the last 70 years, this part's from the former letter. For the last 70 years, this land has played an important role as an unofficial extension of the recreation trails, forest land, and wildlife habitat of Rocky Mountain Park, just north of Poetsy. Actually, that should say Rocky Mountain Park and Rocky Mountain Conservation Area.
Mm.
Is it conservation area or conservation land?
I think it's
Area. I have it
Oh,
down
I
here.
just
Yeah.
closed out my mass mapper.
I got it. I put it down here. And Rocky Mountain Conservation Area just north of Poetsy. The trails along that ridge are part of our deep cultural history and were undoubtedly used by both people and wildlife long before the founding of Greenfield. This parcel is of particular conservation value. It abuts Rocky Mountain Conservation Area and provides nearly 13 acres of additional contiguous forested space. The red, white, and blue trails, three of the park's most popular trails, would end abruptly if not for their confluence on the 13-acre. Oh, it should just say 13-acre parcel. This is when it was talking about both parcels.
I know, I'm hearing Fletcher now.
Yeah, on the 13-acre parcel. These trails see regular use by hikers, dog walkers, cyclists, and trail runners. This parcel provides exemplary natural communities and critical habitat for state-listed plants and wildlife. It is classified by Mass Wildlife's Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program as priority habitat of rare species. The known geographical extent of habitat for all state-listed rare species, both plants and animals. Biomap core habitat, lands that are most critical for ensuring the long-term persistence of rare and other native species and their habitats, exemplary natural communities, and a diversity of ecosystems. And biomap critical natural landscape, defined as large landscapes minimally impacted by development and buffers to core habitats in coastal areas, both of which enhance connectivity and resilience. The conservation of this parcel is in line with the goals developed with public input in Greenfield's Open Space and Recreation Plan 2021 to 2028, which states pieces of the Rocky Mountain Ridge on the east are currently unprotected and are valued as scenic views. Development in these areas would limit public access to the numerous magnificent vistas from these high elevations.
That is
Preservation
like
of
the
these
bell ringer sentence right there.
preservation of these areas should be prioritized. Page 4-16. One of the first goals identified in the OSRP contains the following action. Make needed improvements to Poetsy/Rocky Mountain Ridge, develop a formalized interconnected trail system along the entire length of the Rocky Mountain Ridge. This interconnected trail system is currently being mapped and trail signage developed in a project being spearheaded by the Recreation Department. I added that because that's going on right now. In addition to the important conservation value, the parcel likely has little value as a developable lot. There are no existing water or sewer lines. There is no road access to the parcel, and much of the parcel slopes steeply down toward the Connecticut River. In addition to the fact that the parcel abuts existing conservation land, the difficulty in development on the parcel makes it more suited to be conservation land than recreation land, since it would be difficult to build any recreation facilities on it.
And it's all bedrock.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. Even the
It's a
side,
bedrock cliff.
Yeah.
right, the side on the police station side, yeah.
To permanently protect this 13-acre parcel on Rocky Mountain Ridge as conservation land, the mayor would need to request that the city council transfer care, custody, management, and control of it to the Conservation Commission. City council would then need a 2/3 vote in favor of the transfer. If it wishes, city council can restrict allowable uses of the parcel in its motion, but if it is not specified by city council, it would be managed according to the regulations for public use of Greenfield conservation land attached. Finally, to ensure future generations recognize the property as conservation land, the minutes from the city council meeting authorizing the transfer may be recorded at the Registry of Deeds. The Conservation Commission's conservation fund may be used to pay for Registry of Deeds fees related to conservation land if necessary. Thank you for considering this request. The Conservation Commission is available to answer any questions or assist with the process as needed. And I have two attachments, the regulations and a map.
One of the quotes was backwards, the one in front of priority habitat.
I'll switch that
The only
back.
thing that I saw.
I just made this quick map showing where it is in the trails. And then the regulations for the use.
This is awesome.
Yeah, this is good.
So let me open that up again. Which ones need to be
It's
switched?
like, yeah, right in front of known. I don't know why it's backwards. You see where I mean?
Quotation
In front of the K?
Just the quotations are
Yeah, yeah, it's backwards. I don't
Oh,
know.
oh,
Does
Oh,
that sometimes
I
automatically.
thought you
If
meant,
delete it and then do it again, it'll probably go the right way.
yeah,
Yeah.
I thought you meant the wording was
yeah, that's why I
backwards.
think, but the
Oops.
sentence was like backwards or something.
No, no, it's just like the little quoties were backwards. Anyways, I thought this is great. This is great.
Yeah, so I was thinking if this is good or whenever we decide that it's good, Mitch could put the letterhead on and send this to the mayor's office with those attachments. And I will add that I had sort of an informal meeting with a member of the Sustainable Greenfield Implementation Committee, not really about this, but about like open space in general. And I think they may be sending a letter also to the mayor asking that this be
Yay.
conservation land.
That's so exciting.
Does anyone have anything that needs to be changed in here or
This is awesome.
I think it would probably be good if we voted to send this, so it would have like the full force of our votes as the Conservation Commission.
Are you motioning?
Yeah, I'll motion that we send this letter to the mayor.
Second.
Yeah, okay. So we have a motion that was seconded. Any other discussion on that?
Sounds good.
Trying to make sure I see everyone's pictures here. Okay, so we will vote on that motion. Kristen,
Aye.
Emily,
Hi.
Elizabeth,
Hi.
Erica.
Aye.
All right, and I am also an I. Okay, so yeah, so Mitch, maybe when you send that, I don't know if it makes sense to add it onto here or just like in the email or whatever to the mayor's office. Just maybe mention that we voted unanimously to send this letter.
That's a good.
Yeah, we'll do.
Okay. So that's number one. And then the other thing was about ticket books. And I know most of you probably didn't even know what I was talking about in the last meeting when I brought this up because Mitch and I have been kind of working on this behind the scenes, but
Eric was like confused as well. He thought it was the clerk magistrate.
so essentially um the MACC handbook says in order to get that ticket book to issue fines or to issue tickets to fine people, it says to contact the clerk magistrate of the district court with with your sample, and then they'll approve it. And then once it's approved, you can print it and start using it. And every time we've contacted them through phone calls, emails, sending a letter in the mail, they say, we don't offer legal advice. Even though we've quoted in the handbook saying this is what it tells us to do. And they have no idea even what we're talking about when we talk to them about it. So I don't think it's a very common process, but so essentially when I went to the conference, the MACC conference, in the Q&A session, I was like, okay, this is what we've run into. What do we do now? And there was a lawyer and he was like, I would talk to, have the city's legal counsel review it. And they can tell you what to do because they're the ones who are going to be enforcing it if someone, um, tries to fight the ticket, so they need to know what's in it and they need to, make sure that it's legally enforceable. So this letter is explaining to the mayor all of that and then sending a copy of the ticket book, which we got the sample directly from the clerk magistrates from the district court's website where it says use this as the template. So we use that as the template. And so we're going to send that as an attachment with this to have the city's legal counsel review and let us know. Hopefully they'll just say, yes, this is exactly what it needs to be. Go ahead and print it. And then whenever we need, I mean, if the need arises to fine someone for, not following an enforcement order or fines for conservation land issues, we would have the ability to do that. So, any questions on
just
that?
well, just a question. Who issues that? Like, do we, or do we send it to the sheriff's department or the police department and they issue it, or?
It would either be us or Mitch.
Okay.
We can do that ourselves and send it, like priority mail or whatever, make sure the person gets it. And then it's a legally enforceable fine. So I'll just read this letter real quick. Dear Mayor DeSorger, the Greenfield Conservation Commission protects the city's wetland resources by enforcing the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Greenfield Wetlands Protection Ordinance. The commission also manages the city's conservation land and maintains regulations for their uses. In most circumstances, violators are unaware of these regulations and are willing to work with the commission to remediate any issues they have caused. I will say Mitch wrote the first draft of this to the clerk magistrate, and I've adapted it to send to the mayor. For the rare instances where violators ignore the commission's requests to restore or cease work in protected areas, fines may be necessary to enforce the state and city regulations. Under the city's adoption of the non-criminal disposition law, fines can be issued to whoever fails to comply with the city's ordinances. Chapter 423 of Greenfield's charter grants the commission the authority to issue fines as well, stating that any person who violates any provision of this chapter or regulations, permits, or administrative orders issued thereunder shall be punished by a fine of not more than $300 per day. The conservation land regulations for public use also state that violators of these regulations shall be punished by fines of $100 for the first offense, $200 for the second offense, and $300 for the third or subsequent offense. These fines are similar to those in many other cities and towns across Massachusetts, which are utilized to ensure compliance with regulations. Though the authority to issue these fines has been in the city charter for years, the Conservation Commission has not ever had the ability to issue these fines due to a lack of a ticket book. The Massachusetts Association of Conservation Commissions advises that commissions must prepare ticket forms and have them, quote, approved by the clerk magistrate of the district court having jurisdiction in that city or town. Attached is the ticket form we've prepared using the sample non-criminal municipal citation form from the district court's website as a guide. The Conservation Commission has contacted the clerk magistrate's office through email, by phone, and by mail, and each time received the response that the clerk magistrate, quote, does not offer legal advice. The Conservation Commission requests that you have the city's legal counsel review the attached ticket form template and advise the Conservation Commission on whether we can have them printed and begin using them when necessary, or if there are changes or further steps required before these ticket forms can be printed and put into use. To be clear, there are no current enforcement orders or violations for which the Commission would like to use fines or would like to issue fines. This is merely an attempt to have the ticket book available for any issues that may arise in the future. Respectfully, the Greenfield Conservation Commission.
Can I make one adjustment on the first paragraph?
Yeah, no problem.
So, under the Wetlands Protection Act, MGL Chapter 131, Section 40, and then it right before it says and then say and its implementing regulations. 310 CMR 10.00 et sec. And its implementing regulations.
Oops.
Yeah. 310 CMR 10.00 ET SEQ period.
Wow. ET.
Yeah, ET has two
period.
separate words. ET period space SEQ. And you can italicize that if you want. That's like the true citation of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Greenfield Wetlands Ordinance. Yeah.
Okay.
This is awesome. Who wrote this? Is this Mitch?
Mitch wrote the first letter to the district court. And then I took that letter and added a bunch of stuff to send to the mayor. So
Thank you
it's
both
kind of
guys.
half
Awesome.
Mitch and him.
Wait,
Yep.
can you go back to that paragraph where you just put that in? Because I think you took out an and.
Uh-oh.
Like,
And
I think
Maybe
you,
it's,
Greenfield Wells. Yeah.
yeah,
As well
Yeah.
as maybe it was better than another and, I don't know.
maybe a comma.
yeah, or something, yeah.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know how you feel about Oxford commas, but
Who gives a, you know what about an Oxford comma?
all right. And then so this Mitch, do you have I don't know where the sample is for that. Could you just show that real quick?
Yeah, I'll see if I can find that. If that's might just be on the hard drive.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not yeah, I don't know if that's on anyway, should we motion on that
Oh, I
one
got it.
too? Oh, okay. This is the last thing on our agenda. So once we're done with this, we're done. So I think.
I was just looking around to see what other cities do
Mhm.
and found, a section on the city of Revere that talks about it.
You gotta
And,
call it like it is, Emily. It's Revere.
Thank you. I'm a Connecticut girl. I don't know how to say
Okay.
anything in this state. Um, I could say Gloucester. That's about it.
Oh,
Um,
Gloucester. It's Gloucester.
Gloucester,
Oh my
yeah,
God.
see, exactly. I can say Greenwich, but not Gloucester.
So Emily, did
Yeah,
they have like the process for getting
they
it
just talk
done
about
or?
the fines.
Okay, yeah.
And they mentioned the $10,000 a day. And then for their local ordinance, it's the up to $300 at ticket.
Hmm.
So it's just
Hmm.
interesting.
Can we
to
reach
see.
out to the Revere agent or chair and see what they say or for
Well,
advice?
I will say that this has been going on for like a year and a half, and I've talked to other commissions. I think I reached out to Northampton and
Yeah.
I mean a lot of places use these, and I think they said they took the like the Board of Health, they took their ticket and then just like changed it to say Conservation Commission.
I don't want
Which
to contradict you, Travis, but I think back as far as Sarah was working on this, it
okay.
just never really went anywhere.
Yeah,
So
well, I think
that was like three,
yeah.
agents before this.
Yeah, I think it totally died at one point and then I
Yeah,
resurrected it. So
yeah.
um so
Well, there's
anyway,
a lot of
it would be
turnover in
good.
there.
Yeah, I mean it would be good to,
It
you
does
know, and
sound
the
like there's
thing,
two different processes. So there's like one fee and then there's what was it? Uh, Violations of chapter 131, section 40.
mm,
That's up to $10,000 a day for continuing violations. And then they talk about the non-criminal disposition tickets issued by the city of Revere for violations of Title 16, Chapter 1604, wetland protections, and city of Revere municipal ordinances. And that's where it's $300 a day. So it even sounds like there's multiple processes that have different amounts associated with them. But I just want to applaud the stick-to-itiveness that has gotten us
Yeah.
at all anywhere, because it just sounds like
Second that.
the kind of
Yeah.
thing nobody would want to touch.
yeah. Yeah. Um it would be good to like, you know, finally have it finished, I
Yeah.
guess.
I hope
So
never use it, but to have it there is really important.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Especially for some kind of nasty dumping or
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we do have one kind of chronic town member who insists on that he's exempt.
Mm.
But
So should we motion to send that letter as well? I guess I'll motion to
was that a motion?
I'll motion to send the letter to the mayor describing the uh ticket book issue.
Second,
All right, any other discussion on that? All right, so we'll vote on that motion. Erica,
aye.
Kristen,
I,
Emily,
Aye.
Elizabeth?
Aye.
All right, and I am also an I. So, yeah, Mitch, I guess if you could send both of those, put both of those letters on like the letterhead and send the attachments with them. And
Yeah, will do.
yeah, and then um, I think for that one with the ticket book, I think you have one that was already filled out, the where it says like Conservation Commission and stuff on it, right?
Yeah, I just found that.
Okay, yeah, so I guess just attach that one. And
Yep.
yeah. Okay, great. So on our agenda, is there any other, oh, there is one other thing that I just wanted to mention. The SGIC, I said I talked to him, talked to Jonah from the SGIC. It sounds like they are interested in creating a subcommittee of the SGIC that would be focused on open space. And so I think it would be like kind of like what Greenfield is doing with like Miller's Meadow, like kind of taking the initiative on open space stuff, and they could advise us, like, hey, this is what you should do. And then, we would still have the authority over the conservation land for like what gets done. And but they would sort of be like an advisory body. And I think someone from the Conservation Commission could be on that committee also. So I guess I just wanted to pass that along, that might be happening. And there was a question about, I think it would make it a lot more complicated, but if it was like a joint subcommittee, like joint with Conservation Commission and SGIC and maybe the Recreation Commission too, as like this weird, but I think if it just lives, personally, I think if it just lives under the SGIC, and then, I mean, maybe we could request if they had a spot on the committee for someone from the Conservation Commission, whether we fill it or not. Like if it was like a standing position that we could fill if we could. Just thought
That's
I'd pass
great.
that along. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
All right. Mitch, were there any project monitoring stuff?
The Route 2 that the Mass DOT project has started. They put the
Oh.
erosion controls and everything.
The emergency order?
Emergency one?
No, like the NOI
The regular one.
near the Big Y.
oh,
They were, where they
okay.
wanted to fix pedestrian traffic and all that stuff.
oh,
Yeah.
I was thinking like north of, yeah, Stop and Shop. Okay, all
Okay.
right.
So they put in their erosion control and they're about to start doing the actual work.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
But that's
All
it.
right. Okay, so next meeting date, Tuesday, May 14th, 2024, 6:30 p.m.
I won't be here, just to let you know. I'll be in.
Okay. All right, good to know. Mitch, I just thought of one thing maybe you could add to our agenda for the next meeting is appointing to the Community Preservation Committee. My term is about to end in June. And I would be happy to do it again if people want to reappoint me or if someone else wants to do it. But I think we need to vote to appoint someone, whether it's me or someone else. And I think if we do that early enough, I can have that 90-day waiting period while I'm still there, or whatever the waiting period is, and then get sworn in and not have to miss anything.
I would love
So.
to nominate you, Travis.
Okay, but this is next meeting. I don't want to do
Well,
anything
I want to go
official.
back to that because I'm wondering if our next meeting's actually the 21st.
Oh, does it have the wrong?
Because we meet the second Tuesday, right? And the first
Yeah.
Tuesday is the 7th.
The 14th, right?
14th. Second Tuesday is the 14th.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yep.
Yeah, that threw me too, Kristen.
Yeah, it's one of those weird ones where we have 3 weeks off.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
the fifth
Have-
Tuesday.
Yeah, have
Mhm.
I
fun,
love
everybody.
that though. I'm
On your
not
week off.
complaining about that. All right, cool.
Elizabeth, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I saw your hand up, Elizabeth.
No, Kristen already cleared it up, and so.
Oh, okay. All right. Anyone want a motion to adjourn?
I love to motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, motion to adjourn was seconded. All in favor? I'm in favor. All right, that is unanimous. So we are adjourned at 8:42 p.m.